Hello and welcome to our special episode where we will showcase highlights from India's largest data gathering. Dell Technologies presents second edition of the Economic Times DataCon Virtual Summit, Data Revolution to Evolution. A big thank you to all our partners, our presenting partner, Dell Technologies, our platinum partners, Tata Communications, IBM, Logitech, Commvault, NetApp, Hitachi Vantara. Our gold partners, Juniper Networks, Exclusive Networks, Tenable, Zoom, AWS, Automation Anywhere, and Redington. Our gold partners, More Engage, Cloudera, and Samsung SDS. DataCon witnessed the evolutionary journey of data across multiple verticals and industries. The three-day conference had 5 tracks spread across the TechCon, FinCon, and MarCon events, where all important aspects of an organization's digital journey in the new normal were dissected and strategized. The futuristic and experiential virtual ambience stirred the audience's savvy senses with its social wall, experience zone, networking, and of course, the leaderboard hustle. The TechCon day had a plenary track, the digital leaders track, and also the security track. Via the keynote sessions and panel discussions, it offered new data and data-centric content to catapult organizations on the road to recovery. Now let's see the glimpses from the TechCon day.
As a professional, we all knew and we always used data in various walks of life. And we always knew what is going to be the benefit of taking a data-driven decision. And all the tools and techniques are already there. But I think it took us a bit of a shake-up in the form of this pandemic to really embrace it. And what we could not achieve by years of change management got done in almost in a quick shot, because there were challenges all across. To start with, it was all a touchless and contactless paradigm. You had people in your organizations working remotely. There were uncertainties of demand and supply, so there were disruptions. There were challenges around fulfilling the needs across the different parts of the value chain.
A lot of work was being done, on increasing customer engagement levels and also looking at persistency, because persistency is a very important metric for insurance companies, and using data to predict the behavior of the customer and to be with the customer who probably may need us more than other customers who see the value in the proposition that we sell. I think there has to be a differential experience. So now all of that was kind of pre-COVID, right? And what happened during COVID last year when I think somewhere around in March we saw the lockdowns essentially happening. It was not just about trying to do what you were doing, but I think it was also about how you were doing things. People in one office space now scattered across. Clearly requires a lot of motivation, a lot of engagement at an employee level to keep these kind of initiatives forward, when you're kind of socially disconnected, if I were to use that word, but still digitally connected.
The differentiator that the company provides today is the data that they have, and how do we leverage the data, and how do we give the best experience to the customers by leveraging the data, right? And that is the one which is very hard for the competitors to replicate. You can actually replicate a software much easily with all the building blocks that is provided by services today, right? So this is the key differential. Now going back to your question of how do we ensure that that data is preserved in a very good ways, making sure that it's preserved from employees of the company, right? It's also preserved and it is customized only for that experience, right? So it's not shared with. That has been the topmost priority for companies like Uber, where data privacy and security is the highest priority. It is by design when we are building any solutions, right? In fact, those are like table stakes, and in fact we compromise on some of our decisions just to ensure that that is being taken care.
we did have our inventory planning tools in-house, but those tools were more relying 80% on the past data and 20% predictive. So after this, now we are making an attempt to reverse this. It has to be 80% predictive and 20% based on past, because we have already seen one disruption, and even now we live in a little bit of uncertainty that how. And I hope that this AI tool that the company use is getting smarter day by day to even outsmart this kind of disruption that we went through. Then the second component which helps us to make this availability happen is credit, because it takes some time for us to deliver to the partner and then partner doing the deploy and complete the order to cash cycle. So credit decisions need to be taken. So of course it is an art and a science at the same time. And now we are trying to rely more on the science part.
As we see organizations increasingly adopt work from anywhere model, we are finding that having a resilient infrastructure is paramount, because you have to safeguard the assets and the sanctity of the data that is being generated from anywhere. It is hitting organizations, and it is the organization's responsibility to take care of the data. As organizations move faster on the digital transformation journey, the workloads are also moving from edge to core to cloud. And with that comes the need of having seamless data protection. And the fact that intrinsic security plays an even more role today is something which we are seeing everywhere. We had heard about organizations preparing themselves for a natural disaster, or working or moving to a different site, having a three-way disaster recovery implementation. But today it's all about cyber, which is the new disaster. And therefore, and it is at a global scale, and it impacts much, much more, spreads faster. We are seeing organizations reach out they're following various frameworks from a cybersecurity point of view. But the need of the hour is to how do you really look at resiliency as a strategy and deploy the right solutions to protect, detect, and recover your critical data in no time. We have been able to bring this over our experience of more than 5 years and more than 1,000+ global customers who are looking at the most advanced level of data protection, which comes by having an isolated air-gapped environment, to make sure that these critical assets are in a position of being able to recover, and there is no compromise.
Welcome back to our special episode on DataCon 2.0. We'll see the FinCon Day highlights.
So I've split finance up into two halves again, as I said in the previous slide. So you've got the control half of finance and the performance half of finance. And this is how I think about investing in digital for finance. So on the control side of finance, what type of investments would we make? Well, first of all, on the control side, what you want to do is you want to minimize the costs, you want to have straight through processing, and you want to have 100% automation. You want to think about the control side of finance as having the minimum amount of costs and the minimum amount of human intervention, so that you can maximize the controls and minimize the cost. The other reason why you might invest in digital in the control side of finance is to improve your operational risk losses. The more straight-through processing, the cleaner the digital environment is on the control side, the less mistakes that you will make. The less mistakes that you will make, the less losses you will have, or the less regulatory interventions that you will have. You're not going to be able to do a digital transformation without investing in technology. And you need the best technology people possible. It doesn't need to be spaceship technology, but you need to make sure that you've got good technologists, a good technology plan, and it matches what you want to do with your use cases. And I've drawn a cloud up there because I firmly believe that the future of technology is going to be developing solutions in the cloud. but make sure that you maximize your ability and your opportunity for success. You've got to be able to think about what's going to make the outcome a success. And lastly, and most importantly, don't go through hundreds of committees wondering whether you should do digital investment in finance. Don't wait. It's almost certainly necessary, and enjoy your digital transformation.
In the initial period of the pandemic, companies went into a survival mode. Cost containment was a buzzword. Companies were wanting to become leaner. They were wanting to eliminate discretionary spend. As things stabilized, newer models, business models started emerging. Companies realized that customer preferences are changing. Customers are not willing to come to their stores because of the fear of the pandemic, and companies had to reach out to them. This was the time when companies started embracing digital channels, and digital became the talk of the town. While companies were dealing with disruption, there were challenges around people front which arose. Employee health and safety became a matter of concern. Employee morale also was one of the areas to be looked at. Workforce had to be digitally upskilled for the new world, the post-pandemic world. Remote working became the norm, and data privacy and cybersecurity were the matters of concern which companies were dealing with.
So we have adopted digital boards for board meetings, so all the material goes into a digital boardroom. Obviously, board meetings have been virtual. It cuts down the paper travel, so there are savings. There are also, we are using tools for like Power BI for taking enterprise view of accounts, because we have accounts being serviced from different geographies. The traditional view was to see what each geography is generating. We would rather take an overall view sitting at a corporate office in terms of what is the overall performance of.
When the lockdown happened, a lot of people stayed at home, so a lot of people started watching more television channels, and therefore our viewership did go up in the first few months. But that later on fizzled out because of absence of new content. So yes, we had a spike in the first quarter of last financial year, but later on it started coming down since the content was not there. How did finance respond? So finance, actually, our company in finance, we were actually on a transformation journey for the previous 7 years. So I joined this company in 2013, and we were on what we call as a digital transformation journey for the previous 7 years. So when actually the pandemic happened, it was a test for us whether we were ready for this pandemic. And happy to share that yes, we were ready, because overnight a decision was taken to work from home. 100% of the people were asked to work from home from day one. And actually for the first few days, I was expecting a lot of chaos in the way things work, but actually there was no escalation, which was very surprising to me, in the sense that we were kind of ready for this scenario, and therefore we did not even raise an alarm internally.
Data today, in today's time, is indeed pure gold, and it can give us some striking insights into the business of sports management in terms of assessing a player's performance, in terms of assessing a team's profitability. So when you talk about people and putting them at the center of how to improvise their respective skill sets, so we came up with a plan in which data can be actually used for a lot of strategic planning around getting the right skill set of people and increasing their performance measures as well. So particularly in a sports franchise, data is being used right from devising a strategy around which players to pick and at what values, by applying a traditional money ball strategy, which you determine the hidden value of the players so that you know at what price bandwidth they can be picked at an auction.
Tools are one part of whatever analysis we do. There is a people side of it also, because tools can give inputs, but people have to interpret it. And for that, we need to train them to how to look at it, what are they expected to do, etc., etc. Fortunately, we have had a learning program in IBM, 40-hour mandatory learning, then you become a super learner, etc., etc. And we have luckily tools also in IBM which profile your interest and highlight or spotlight the education that you need to do to reach your aspiration level. So the user or the person who is actually verifying the paper actually getting data on saying that, okay, for the past 10 customers, they have not given this set of papers. Go look at it in case of this customer because he comes from this particular region or this particular industry. So that's how we have used education to enable the end user on how to look at the data, and also the tools that support that education that he has got on how to look at the data. And that's how we have done it.
Here are the special moments from the MarCon day.
The core snapshot experience has been under constant evolution since we've launched, and our community has been growing consistently along with it. Today, we have over 280 million daily active users, which is a growth of 22% from Q1 of last year. And unlike other apps that open to a feed, Snapchat opens to the camera. This is really the heart and soul of the experience. They're sharing up to 5 billion snaps per day because this is the place where you communicate visually. You can add so much context to your snaps, from location to stickers, emoji, and more. It really gives you a range of creative expression. And over the last several years, our camera has gotten even smarter and more sophisticated, ushering in a revolution around augmented reality that lets you learn and explore the world around you. Now, over the past 6 years, we've rapidly been expanding our marketing capabilities to cater to businesses of all shapes and sizes, but also to serve all objectives, whether it is acquiring new customers at the top of the funnel or driving repeat purchases at the bottom of the funnel. And since the very beginning, we have innovated. We were the pioneers of vertical video. We built our own API and self-serve buying tool, Ads Manager. We launched SnapKit for developers so they could bring the best of Snap to their app and the best of their features to ours. And we launched a slew of direct response solutions in order to drive ROI at scale. And speaking of ROI, we've been able to prove that Snapchat delivers on average a $3 return on ad spend, which is about a 20% higher than digital norms. This of course varies from vertical to vertical, but our team has always been laser focused on improving efficiency with each feature that we create.
You know, I've been involved in many initiatives along with other CMOs inside our own agency, agency group, looking at different ways in which, you know, we can help brands tide over this pandemic recovery. I must say that I have been extremely impressed with the sophistication with which CMOs have now, started addressing some of the issues, whether it is, using technology to cement or to fix the broken brand experience, or whether it is to, find new ways of creating relevance for your brand with the consumer. So, like a lot of sophistication has started coming into it, and I'm sure much more sophistication is what we are going to see as we go forward. First set of brands is where the category has become super relevant, and these would largely be your health and hygiene categories, foods categories, technology brand categories, social media, OTT entertainment, all these categories. And I think these categories have become super relevant, and all these CMOs have been extremely busy. In fact, our own teams who work with some of these brands and these CMOs have actually literally been working non-stop. The workload has probably jumped 5 times. Brands like Lifebuoy, Domex, etc. For these categories, it's all been about, how do you create content to educate?
Okay, so good. So thank you for inviting me to chair this this very powerful panel full of young, energetic people. I bring some geriatric blood into this discussion, hopefully. So let me, brand loyalty is something which all of us, it's like the holy grail in marketing. And the good old lessons which I learned in direct marketing, which I don't know whether it's still true. That's the first question I want to pose to the panelists. Is that in direct marketing, we were told that the cost of attracting a new customer is 6.7. I don't know how they got this number. 6.71 times more expensive than attracting or retaining an existing customer. So I want to go with Ravi first, and then move to Kashyap, and then to Harish. So Ravi, your take, has the number changed from 6.7 to 10, 11, or has it dropped?
Amazon's experience, and I'm sure Harish will probably echo some of what I'm going to say, which is that as you market, let's take Amazon in my case or my team's case, what you're really trying to create is a behavior change from the age-old buy it from an offline store near your home to actually ordering it online, right? So you're literally, in a sense, creating the category in a country like India. And just for today's audience, let's say we have 700 million people on the internet today in India, right? Less than maybe 150 million of them have actually shopped online at least once, right? So that's the kind of growth opportunity ahead of a new behavior like online shopping. And to that extent, coming back to your question, it is all about getting new customers, frankly, to online shopping. Post which, once they experience the benefit, the convenience, the safety of shopping from within their homes, they are now converted to becoming a hybrid shopper, an offline and an online shopper.
As a marketer, you have multiple tasks. Obviously, customer acquisition is a task. You are going into the big bad world out there, competing with so many other people and trying to win a customer. I think, like I said, it's a slightly wilder world out there. When you're going in for acquisition, you have less information. You are potentially competing for attention in a very crowded marketplace, and you're trying to drive that user to convert with you. On the other end of the thing, when you're talking about customers whom you previously acquired, and when you use words like retention and loyalty, I think you're really talking about how do customers who you previously interacted with or acquired, how can you get them to do more with you? As simple as that.
These are our two sets of customers, right? The folks who have still not experienced the full goodness of the platform, or they are just stepping into online purchases in the first place, as what we spoke earlier. I think these customers are still experiencing us for the first time, right? And hence, they are not fully in love yet. When they experience the full range of the platform, then they would not go anywhere else. So that's how I look at it. And is loyalty going down or going up? I would say the folks who are past a certain, in Myntra terms, we call it purchase sequence, number of purchases, they usually tend to stick with us and they are extremely loyal. The ones who are in the early sequence of purchases, they tend to be more experimentative. So our job is to get them across that hurdle point, and then they tend to stick around much longer.